You know, it's quite a job starting to love someone. You have to have energy, generosity, blindness. There's even a moment at the very beginning when you have to jump across the precipice. If you think about it, you won't do it. Jean-Paul Sartre. That's a lot of big talk from a 5-foot-tall Frenchman. If you think about it, you won't do it. Oh, Chante. What's the 100 Gex line? That's a lot of big talk for someone with such a small truck. You know this guy's the one that invented those existential thoughts in your head? So one's a philosophy, the other is just an intrusive thought. Okay. I think it's all cleared up. Yeah, thanks, Mom. Appreciate it. Love, romance, poking someone on Facebook circa 2010. These are all incredible feelings that require hours of self-reflection and hell, maybe even a psych degree to fully understand. These are nebulous concepts that cause our knees to shake, our heads to spin, and our lower abdomen to spontaneously fill with butterflies. It's the reason Troy fell, and the reason I joined a band. But why the hell are they in video games? Maybe it's just me, but when I play video games, the only person I'm trying to impress is me, myself, and the 2 people in Twitch chat. I don't need swaths of swooning himbos, bimbos, and thimbos because I'm too busy kicking ass and trying to find the nearest gas station to refill my supply of chewing gum. So why bother putting it in here? Well, I guess if art imitates life and vice versa, then we need to have romance as a goal, otherwise we won't get games about my other favorite emotions, like the pleasant feeling you get when you cancel plans, or general sloth, and the stress of a 2-day constipation bender. Never mind, Far Cry New Dawn nailed that last feeling flawlessly. The general issue with romance in video games, much like in real life, is how it's handled and presented to the player. I hate when my parents arrange dates for me because I tend to get stuck with the weird girl who's a little too into bowling. And likewise, I don't like Roman Bellic setting me up with some rando who also happens to be a little too into bowling. What do we stand to gain from these experiences except further realizing that our skills at Wii Bowling are non-transferable? Either way, Nico and I don't benefit from participating in these dates. However, the 2 of us do possess the special power of finding potential suitors via the internet. And these dates actually provide tangible benefits. Much like in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, Nico gets store discounts, wanted levels removed, and health bonuses from reaching a high enough status with these people, while I get the opportunity to move across the country and have a personal chauffeur. That last joke's gonna need a little bit of context. You see, while I was trying to escape the cold clutches of Indiana and move to Texas, I was able to do so thanks to my girlfriend getting a job before I did. For that, I'm forever grateful. However, the car thing is her own damn fault. Why would you get a manual in the 21st century? We live in the new millennium for a reason. Automatic cars are lovely, and I can't drive you anywhere because I don't know how to drive stick. Oh yeah, Mom and Dad, I told you that meeting girls over the internet isn't always just gonna be Evan catfishing me. Really, that last part is nobody's fault but my own. I should have known that any dating bio that reads, "My favorite game is Black for the PS2, trust me, it still holds up," should have been a dead giveaway. Speaking of that yokel, Evan made a good point a while back. To paraphrase,
in GTA 4, you're an immigrant who's broke and in trouble with the mob, and your dates constantly talk about your clothes, judging the character based on whether or not he's changed his outfit in between dates. It's that kind of weird, mundane charm that you see so often in GTA 4, and it gives off a sort of Western Shenmue vibe.
Weirdly, Nico Bellic's dating life is a lot less difficult than previous protagonist Carl Johnson's was. CJ had to physically change his body to find love. In order to win over one of his potential dating partners, he has to get really fat. Then turn around and a different one won't start dating him until he's at least 75% muscle. CJ's out here doing the Christian Bale speedrun for love, and all I had to do was download an app. GTA, as well as many other games, use romance as a means to an end. If all dating was this robotic, marriage would only last a few months, then end once you gave the other person your car keys. Skyrim does this to a certain extent, but the requirements to date for the player are much easier, and the benefits are a little bit more long-term.
You're a Weaver Rabbit fan, right? Like, I'm not just assuming that because you're a bunny and you can't really play video games. You also can't read, so you're not very good at that game, are you?
Anyway, I say easier for the player because if someone asked me in real life to single-handedly take down Fort Sungard for a book, I think I would question my attraction to them. But thankfully, Gorzagar Bagel asks you to do this, and I would do anything for that scaly goddess. Okay. So I went and got the book. Now all you have to do is just go get married. Just kidding. we have to now do the church's quests. All right, so we got those done. Now I have to just go buy a house because we have to have somewhere to live. Now I have to go get money to buy the house. Oh, and now she wants children. Now she's gonna start her business in for her own house. Now she's gonna repeat the same 3 dialogue lines over and over and over and over again. I am going to lose my mind. Anything for you, my love. Harvest Moon and Stardew Valley run on the same kind of romance system, except the quest isn't one big thing, it's daily gifts, which in real life would be nice for about a week, but if someone who I knew was clearly into me kept bringing me cauliflower and actual diamonds, I would be not only put off, but a little suspicious. Romance, when tied to in-game bonuses, doesn't do a whole lot to extend the feeling of love to the player. The player doesn't love the character, they love that they get blue chickens now. I would venture to guess, though, that romance for in-game bonus sake is far better than romance for morality's sake, like in Infamous, where the only romance option is essentially a trolley problem. Or worse yet, romance tied to victories in battle, like in Def Jam Fight for New York. However, everyone that I knew who had that game was undefeated because they'd rage quit if they lost, so all I knew was that you could date Carmen Electra. But thankfully, we're not talking about just trashy options, we're going on to the good stuff. Obviously, we're talking about dating sims, a genre hidden from most Western audience for quite a while, which really sucks because at the core of these games, we find the fastest way to someone's heart is by listening to them and getting to know them. The main gameplay loop is memorizing character interests and using that to inform your decisions. There might also be the occasional minigame sprinkled in there for effect. For those of us who prefer mechanics over stories, dating sims are a tad out of our comfort zone. But once I got into it, the wall above my bed turned into a policed suspect board of all the characters' likes and dislikes and how I might better win them over. Dating sims will suck you in with interesting characters that start to feel real the more you talk to them. This game is designed with emotion at its heart, and even the most cynical players will be gently led by the hand to a quaint picnic, where they'll be lulled into a relaxing state of bliss, knowingly discussing fun topics with a bunch of ones and zeros, but not letting that get into the way of real enjoyment. Unless you hit it with the hard stuff, I don't know what to tell you then. Visual novels do a bit of the same, but instead we're a passive audience member in the dangerous tango of love. But Sartre said that if you think about it, then you won't do it, which means if I want to find love, then I shouldn't pick a game where the goal is finding love. It has to be spontaneous, like in real life. Maybe something like a classic relationship, like Zelda and Link, Nathan Drake and Elena Fisher, Peach and Mario, Jason Brody and Liza Citra. Never mind, just scratch that last example. Again, we are mere viewers in these acts of devotion. I don't personally love Zelda, but that has nothing to do with the writing and everything to do with me trying to win over Sidon in Breath of the Wild. I'm sorry, Miss Zelda, but you really don't have much on Hot Fish Man. The player doesn't get to share in the love, so it's not really worth talking about here. Conversely, in a significant number of RPGs, we find that love is almost as nuanced as it is in the real world. Instead of taking time off from the main story to win over the interest of a lover, players have to multitask, balancing romance with fighting a 65-million-year-old alien parasite. One of these is a Herculean feat requiring strength, dexterity, and all the mana you can summon, and the other one is fighting a 65-million-year-old alien parasite. If I wanted to end this video right here and now, I could simply ask you, the audience, what's the most memorable thing from Final Fantasy VII? Odds are, most of you would say the exact same thing, and it has to do with romance. So, what does that mean? We will get into it, but I'm gonna put a spoiler warning right here, so if you really don't want this spoiled, even if you knew what it was, go ahead and skip to this timestamp. Why is Aerith's death the most memorable thing about Final Fantasy VII? Well, it's not only because she's a possible love interest that a player can allocate time to wooing, but she's also a party member who you fought alongside with and dedicated time and resources to her growth. In a sense, that's the player giving double attention to one specific character. Of course her death's gonna stick. Even if you didn't pick her as your romantic companion, seeing a party member die is a massive blow all the same. The camaraderie forged in an RPG is easily one of the strongest emotional bonds we see in video games. Aerith is a tangible, meaningful love interest, which makes the permanent loss of her character hit so much harder. This is why temporary party members give me trust issues and why I never let a character die in Fire Emblem. However, just referencing the most culturally known RPG isn't really gonna cut it for this section, so I summon the wisdom of a top-tier RPG enjoyer. Please welcome back Pelzio. Okay, so he's a bit busy and couldn't actually make it to the show, mostly due to my poor planning, but nevertheless, he sent me a sizable amount of reading materials to assist with the section. Without his help, there would be a massive hole in this episode. Kicking off, we have Sakura Awards, a very unique RPG brought to us by our favorite oddball company, Sega. First released in 1996 for the Sega Saturn home console, this series saw a soft reboot in the US around 2019 for the PS4. The only reason I know about this game is because I pretty much watched Pelzio beat the entire game 100%. Though, the whole time, I had no clue what was going on, and dare I say, I still don't know what's going on. After a quick Google search though, I was able to confidently say that this is a multi-genre game consisting of a sort of open-world visual novel, dating sim, and action RPG combat, wherein you manage a team of women while fighting demons and mechs. The dating sim aspect comes to us in the form of the Live and Interactive Picture System, or LIPS as the game likes to call it. It functions like Telltale Games' dialogue system, where you have a limited window to answer and your responses range from best to worst and have consequences. Also, silence is always an option too. Sakura Wars also has a side system to this, where you interact with the dateable characters in their room in what's called Analog LIPS system. These choices dictate your team's strength in battle, so like, don't be a dick and you'll kick ass. Sakura Wars' dating mechanic differs from Final Fantasy VII's in the amount of romancing needed to boost your team up. There are 5 women to entertain, befriend, and occasionally romance, which means that you're gonna have to get to know these characters very well. Up next is Persona, which I'm just gonna read verbatim from what Pelzio sent me. Persona's romance is fairly straightforward. The game has an important system where you have to increase your confidants, the in-game relationship system, with other characters. Love interest will peak around the 9th confidant, where you have to choose whether you're going to date or just stay friends. These don't really affect the story, but they do give you someone to spend the in-game holidays with. The best part is you can date as many of these characters as you want with practically no repercussions, with the exception of Valentine's Day, where you can only pick one to give chocolates to. The rest will give you hell the next day and throw their chocolates at you in rage. Up next, we're filling in the void of Mass Effect, a game that I have yet to play. Please put your hands together for— oh, wait, it's just Evan, never mind.
Thanks for the really good introduction, Dakota. BioWare's Mass Effect series seems like probably the most obvious or highly publicized Western RPG example of this. The games are obviously great for a variety of reasons, but the way it segments its quieter character moments into conversations on board the Normandy is truly a wonderful way to give it a sense of place and community. And having these romances form over the course of a playthrough's worth of checking on your favorite characters after dramatic story moments is a great way to really contrast Mass Effect's 24-inspired fast-paced action, and to have natural feeling character arcs between Shepard and their love interests. While it is incredibly heteronormative to a fault for the majority of the games, its ability to craft characters who are genuinely flawed, genuinely interesting, and genuinely unbelievably hot is definitely pretty rad. And having you make game-altering decisions that pit party members against each other and potentially lock you out of romances is a great way to keep up the stakes of the game. Again, it's a little less inclusive than it probably should be, and it's very monogamous. But if you're looking for a game that really lets you fall in love with some very handsome alien snipers, then Mass Effect has got you covered more than most games. This is in pretty sharp contrast to the newer Fallouts. Fallout 4's extreme Mass Effect influence notwithstanding, a handful of the actual dating in Fallout games is pretty limited. Doesn't mean I can't smooth talk my way past someone with its unique dialogue perks that allow you to get friendly with some of the locals. It's purely flirtatious, rarely leading to any real romance, but at least in New Vegas it allows you to pick more than one perk for special dialogue against male or female characters, and also give you a tangible damage boost to characters of the same sex as well. Because my desire to flirt with someone also makes me better at killing them. I don't know. don't really want to unpack that. And hey, that side quest for the Van Graffs where you find a wide range of prostitutes for their clientele's very specific preferences, it ain't anything too fancy, but at least feels like you're helping someone find some form of physical love in a desolate wasteland. And that's about as close as you can get to shooting an arrow through a ghoul cowboy's fetishist's heart in a world full of weird crab monsters.
I started writing this episode not just because, Valentine's Day looms right around the corner or February is the month of love, but also because for the first time in my entire video game playing career, I was struck by love unknowingly and unwittingly by Cupid's bow while playing the controversial game Cyberpunk 2077. Let me take you back real quick.
It all started as any other day. I was making my usual rounds, clearing out gangs, turning up dead bodies, and watching people phase through elevators when I got a call. It was about the recent death of Lucius Rhine, the now former mayor of Night City. Some rich folks smelled foul play at hand. They filled me in on the happenings and gave me the number of a hardened police officer by the name of Ward, River Ward. Now, I didn't know the guy, and for all I knew, he was gonna murk me, then hide the body so well it'd have been like I never existed. But it was my only lead. Meeting him for the first time, I could tell that there was something different about him. I couldn't tell what it was, but I decided against my better judgment to trust him. His partner was talking a mile a minute, yet saying nothing, so we decided to leave the diner without him. I'm not much one for folks who needlessly run their mouth. River said he had a lead, so I tagged along to the seedier side of town, where we beat the answer out of some poor schmuck. Turns out the key to this whodunit rested in an abandoned club called the Red Queen. The two of us busted in, guns blazing. I feel bad for whoever had to clean up the mess. River didn't take too long to sniffing out the clues. I was honestly taken aback by his skill. Hadn't worked with a mind this sharp for a while. We found some CCTV footage that nailed the perp dead to rights. Though, when we got back to River's partner, all we received was some spiel about how he already knew and that we were sticking our noses where they didn't belong. I could see Ward's eyes light up with fury. He wanted out of the force, away from the corruption, but he still had one case left to solve. A few days later, Ward invited me over to his sister's place. She seemed stressed, but who wouldn't be if their kid was missing and couldn't do much about it? River and I searched the kid's room to see if we could find any trace of where he might have gone off to. Nothing too much out of the ordinary, just some punk music and drugs. I did a deep dive on the kid's laptop. We didn't like what we found. Some creep had promised him the world, giving him free stuff and sending him some Disney-esque cartoon that would turn all four stomachs of a cow inside out. We were able to track down the greasy monster, but he was already doing time. Didn't help us in the slightest. The kid was still missing. We fast-tracked it to the residence on the edge of town. Just the typical farmhouse, nothing special besides the automated turrets, cameras, and minefield. Getting to the barn was no easy task, but we made it. Turned off the nightmare machines inside and saved the kids. Cops and trauma teams showed up to shut down the area and provide medical aid to the boys. However, this wasn't the end for Ward. He needed to finish the job. So we parted ways as he went off to make sure that the crook that set this all in motion received a well-deserved bullet between the eyes. A week passed with no word from River. I figured that he was either in prison for dispatching the monster, or, since our work was done, he no longer needed to speak to me. A shame, because the guy was starting to grow on me. We made a good team and solved these mysteries faster than Sherlock and Watson. I found myself days later cruising the Badlands on my motorcycle, when that son of a bitch calls me out of nowhere, inviting me to a family cookout. Couldn't say no. Being a nomad, I've always known that family's at the heart of everything, but it had been so long since I felt that. Ever since Jackie died, I couldn't shake the chilly embrace of the city. But here in this fleeting moment, the warmth of being a part of something bigger than myself rushed back to me in full force. River and I started out the evening playing some VR game with the kids, then Joss made some amazing gumbo. We were at the table the whole night, telling stories and just enjoying each other's company. Once the kids went to bed, River said he had a gift for me. He showed me his favorite spot atop an old water tower nearby. This cruel city's a bitch, but from this view, she didn't quite look the same. River gave me his pistol, said he didn't need it anymore. He officially quit the force to be a PI, helping the small folks. A noble man after my own heart. My next assumption was that he'd offer me a spot in his new firm. I'm not the kind of person to stay in one place for too long, but I was considering it heavily. However, what I received instead was a kiss. I was taken back. Love was never in the cards in Night City. Death, destruction, and greed were the only tenets I knew. To be soft was akin to being dead. I wrestled with this feeling, but River's warm embrace washed away the mark that the city had left, and for once, I let someone into my heart.
This was the first time I'd ever truly fallen for a character in a video game. I didn't know romance was even an option when I started this quest. It was a good story and I was intrigued, but when the moment appeared for love, I didn't hesitate to opt in. It was almost an instinctive gesture, and I'm so glad that I did it because Night City truly opened up for me after that. No longer did I see the dark corners filled with violence and hate. Instead, I started to admire the architecture, the fashion design, and the music. This game, for all of its flaws, is absolutely stunning. No longer am I a rogue agent out to do whatever gets me the most money. I'm now fighting crime in all of its forms because I'm actually role-playing as someone who wants to impress River. And there are little touches everywhere that deepen that immersion, like River's sister Joss texting you after the cookout to tell you how excited she is to have you in the family. That just adds a warm feeling that games with romance option tend to miss. It all happened so naturally. I took the leap without thinking about it. Just like Sartre said. And then I took the leap again with Judy Alvarez and tried to take it with KERRY, EURODYNE, and Pan Am, but got rejected there. So, you know what? I wasn't trying to cheat. It just, my finger slipped and it was accidental. Maybe I tried to cheat with Brendan the vending machine. Listen, these people are just, there's so much to love about their storylines. I promise you, I didn't do it on purpose. Again, the square button's just right there. Come on, guys. Someone's got to side with me here. It wasn't all my fault.